Hey, folks, welcome back to the Land Fixer podcast. I'm your host, as usual, Logan Swanson, and we have kind of an offbeat episode today, but we're pretty excited about it. We have with us Marty Laferty from Brewster County, Texas. Say hi to everybody.
Hey, how y'all doing?
Awesome. Folks, just a reminder, if you need to buy or sell land, go to primelandexchange.com. We can help you out. If you need funding for any of your land flips, go to landpartnerfunding.com. We are there to assist you. We can also do subdivide projects, anything like that. And if you have not subscribed, go ahead, go to the landfixer.com, and you can see everything else there that we're doing. All right, Marty. So you have an interesting story. Do you want to sort of tell us a little bit about what brought you down to Brewster County, and then we'll go from there.
Sure, not a problem. Like most people that make big changes in their lives, it's following, circumstances that a lot of times aren't in your control, i.e., a divorce. And I was living up in Michigan and got divorced from my youngest set of kids' mom and stuff. And I had already been remarried for several years and whatever. And we had one of the worst winters that we've had in a long time since like the blizzard of 1978, where when I shoveled my driveway by my garage, the snow piles were higher than the garage roof. So I looked at my wife and said, I'm done. I grew up in Michigan. I'm done. So I asked her to look for best places to live in the United States. And if it had snow, we weren't going. So she found McKinney, Texas. And I went down there and took a view of the area and really liked it and walked right into a COO, Chief Operations Officer job for a large contractor specializing in roofing and whatever. And I've been a contractor pretty much my whole adult life. And I took that job and moved to McKinney, and I gave him a year that I promised him. Things weren't exactly copacetic between him and I because I'm a half-blood Cherokee, and I live and die by my integrity. Name of my construction company was Straight Arrow Construction. Straight as an arrow, no forked tongue, you know. And his business practices didn't exactly align with that. And I won't say any of the names because of
That's
obvious reasons.
definitely roofing in DFW. That's for sure.
Right. Right. I mean, it goes par for the course in big city,
Yeah.
contracting and stuff. Uh, every time I did a quote for someone, let's say it ended up being 20 grand for whatever it was. At the end of the job, it was 20 grand. It wasn't 25 or 30 or add this or whatever. Um, if I made a mistake on my bid, it was my mistake. But anyways, this gentleman, he had an office out here in Alpine, Texas, and he has another office in Las Cruces, in, or not Las Cruces, in El Paso, and another one over in New Mexico here for like projects for the school and the hospital and another job over in Colorado City. But when I flew out here, I'm like, man, this is a cool place out here. High desert, beautiful. So when him and I parted ways, I just reopened Straight Arrow Construction and I moved out here. Walked right into a property that was just 10 miles south of Alpine. Uh, and I almost overnight became the largest contractor in the whole Tri-County. We end up with an office, a secretary, a couple managers, and four crews. And we stayed busy. We did $1.84 million in business doing rehabs. No new builds. We just so much in rehabs. And man, out here the rehab industry is incredible because no one knows what they're doing out here. There's no licensing for contractors in
Yep.
Texas unless it's industrial, For residential, there's no licensing involved. In Michigan, I was a licensed contractor. And to be licensed in Michigan, you have to understand plumbing, electrical, HVAC, general building, and all the legal as well as all the, construction lingo and stuff. Then you have to take a 2-day test and all that other junk. Um, the test was 1,000 questions on the business end and 1,500 questions on the actual construction end. And it's all done on a computer. And when you hit, enter on your last question, it tells you how many you missed, and it goes to the guy at the front desk. And I hit it, and I was a little disappointed in what I had missed. And I walked up there, and the guy said, "Well, obviously you're going to get your license." I'm like, "Yeah, but I missed a couple." He said, "Dude, you missed 3. You missed 3 questions." And I'm like, "Yeah, but I walked away knowing that I missed them and I knew the correct answer." But you can't hit back on those.
Yeah,
So
that's a very different experience. I just went and got my general contractor license at the city of Dallas for this coffee shop I'm building, and it
yep,
took about 10 minutes, and all they wanted was $120. Like
yep.
that was the whole
Thank you for
process.
your money. Thank you for
Yeah.
your money. And out here in the county that I live in, it's unincorporated. The city of Alpine has a building inspector. Well, they have building code right now. They don't have an inspector again. They've had 5 building inspectors in the last 9 years, and they just can't keep them because they don't have any qualifications when they come. But out here in the country where I live, there's no building code. People can build with paper mache. Okay. So for someone that knows how to fix everything that everyone else screws up, it's a gold mine. So anyone that wants to make some good money, as long as you know what you're doing, you can make a lot of money out here in West Texas. Feel free to give me a call. I could probably hook you up with probably 50 jobs within the first week. There's so many people out here needing stuff done. But anyways, that's what brought me out here. Is I love the area. I knew there was a great business potential out here because of the needs, and I never had to advertise. For every one job, I got 3 or 4 referrals from it, and you have to overcome some of the difficulties of where we live. It's almost like living on an island,
Yeah, I
you
was gonna
know,
say maybe let's give so a lot of the audience is not going to be familiar with Brewster County or
and they've
Alpine.
never heard of it.
Yeah,
Never
and
heard
that's
of it.
kind of why you're here, right? I could talk to a lot of
Exactly.
contractors in a lot of places, but you live in a very unique location, and yes, it's sparsely populated. But kind of tell us about Brewster County a little bit, so that folks can
Okay.
kind of visualize it.
So Brewster County is the largest county in Texas. We have no stoplights. We have 3 blinking red lights in Alpine. That's it. We have our full-time population for the entire county is only like 19,000 for the whole county, and we're the largest county. We do at the very southern end of the county, it is on the Mexican border, and we have Big Bend National Park and Big Bend State Park, which takes up the whole half of the county. And the only towns down here is a little town of Studi Butte and Terlingua. Terlingua is famous for their chili festival and the chili cook-off. Um, Big party time in the fall when that happens. But we always have these really cool things going on because it's a tourist county with Big Bend National Park. So there's a whole lot of developments out here for the Airbnb market, or whatever format. Airbnb I know is a format. That's one that my wife and I used for ours that we had, because we eventually built some cabins up there at Cottonwood, just south of Alpine. And we were the builders and the originators of Cottonwood Creek Cabins, which when we owned it, we were the #1 searched on Google, #1 on Airbnb, the highest rated in the whole Tri-County, all that stuff. So we did something right. And it was our first go at doing the whole B&B thing. And I did that on the side of also being the largest contractor in the whole Tri-County and running 4 crews. So I was pretty busy. Well, then turn of events, COVID hits, travel gets shut down, everything happens. You're not allowed to work. The construction company, we just decided to kind of close that down. But at the same time, I developed a uh, autoimmune disease called PMR, polymyalgia rheumatica, and it's a pain disease. Most people don't know what it is. It's similar to fibromyalgia, if you know anyone that has fibromyalgia, but
Yep.
it's way worse. I was totally bedridden for over 6 months, where my wife had to help me get up and go to the bathroom and then come lay down in bed and lay there in agonizing pain. I fought that for about 3.5 years. So during that time, my managers managed the best that they could, but without the boss there, it wasn't what it was when I was there.
Right.
And a lot of that's the ownership mentality of whether you have an ownership mentality or not. So made the decision to close down Straight Arrow Construction and just focus on the residual income of the B&Bs. Well, my wife and I decided we were going to end up selling that, and we sold that place for a good amount of money. And by the blessings of my creator, I say creator instead of God just because I'm half-blood Native American Cherokee. Um, we don't have to work anymore, so I can do whatever I want. I tried to semi-retire or retire. After 3 to 4 weeks, I was bored as hell. you know, I'm like, I'm not going to sit here and wait to die. What do I want to do? I need a hobby. Well, if I could do anything in the world, it would be building. So I found another piece of property down here on Terlingua Ranch Road, which is where I live now, which is where White Bear Ranch, my new development, is under the build right now. We have a total of 6 cabins that's going to be here for rent. We have a bathhouse. A couple of our cabins have bathrooms in them. We have a full office building. I'm fortunate enough to have one of my kids as a Aveda trained stylist. We're going to have a salon right here on site, building a big pavilion so that we could do events and do wedding receptions. But God's honest truth is, man, it's all for me because it's my hobby. And my pavilion is going to have a full bar, 2-tap keg, frozen margarita machines, karaoke machine, outdoor pool table, the video games that I grew up with, going to the arcades, the full size stand up ones, Asteroids and Pac-Man and all this. So it's going to be my playground that I'm going to invite people to come see or whatever. But the cool thing about it is we're making a resort development here for the people. My wife and I have traveled enough and gone places enough that we know what we like, we know what we enjoy, but most importantly, we know what we remember. We remember the bright colors, the uniqueness, the not looking like everybody else, not looking like you're trying to just have someone there to make money off of someone sleeping there.
Yeah.
You put effort into meeting people, you put effort into telling stories, telling them about the area, because this is such a unique area. So I've learned a lot of the trails to hike, and I've hiked them myself, and where to go horseback riding and kayaking in the Rio Grande River. And if there's any places to stay away from, which there isn't, this is one of the safest places I've ever lived, even though it's right on the border. We're protected by 2,000-foot sheer cliffs, so we don't
Yep.
need Trump's wall yet or whatever. And sorry, I even said his name. I stay out of politics. I just don't do it. I'm all about being native. I'm all about my personal rights and freedoms, and I respect everyone else's personal rights and freedoms. So I stay clear of all that stuff. But this county is extremely unique. We have a McCoy's. Shout out to McCoy's, my building supplier up in Alpine. They're an hour away from me, 70 miles. Some people might say 70 miles. That's an hour. Yeah, we drive 75, 80 miles an hour out here. The speed limit 75 everywhere. So if you like driving fast, this is the place to go. You go up to Fort Stockton, speed limit's 80, on the interstate. But that's the closest place to get a loaf of bread, closest place to get a 2x4. So you have to do a lot of planning. UPS and FedEx drivers, first name basis, we give each other Christmas cards, because they're here a lot, 3 times a week on average or more. So we order a lot of stuff online.
Yep.
Fresh fruits out here sucks. You better eat your bananas within 2 days or they're going to be black and all soggy.
Yep.
Tomatoes rot within, 2, 3 days just because of where we're at. We're the last to get everything. So it is like being on an island. If I want to go to a Home Depot or a Lowe's, that's all the way up in Midland, Odessa, which is a 3.5 hour one-way drive, 7 hour round trip. So there goes an entire day and a lot of
Yes.
fuel mileage and a lot of gas expense. So it's a lot of planning and it's so unique. But you know what? We have 300 to 320 days of sunshine a year. And I haven't had any rain other than 3 weeks ago. We had a little bit of freezing mist. Okay. So we got an 1/8 inch of freezing mist that coated everything in ice. Besides that, we haven't had measurable rain on my property since June of last year.
Yep.
So how do we get water? Right?
Yes.
That's one of the big questions. I have roofs and I have water catchment systems with gutters and everything to catch the water. We don't have city water. We don't have city sewers. I do have power that runs on across my property, which is one of the reasons why I bought it. But a lot of places out here don't have access to that. You have to be on solar for most of the properties out here. A big investment because it's not as a solar supplement. It's solar to power everything. So you have to conserve electricity. You have to conserve water, all your resources. You have to act like you don't have it. Try to take a shower with 2 gallons of water. That my wife, she gets more than that. She has the long hair and heck, she can't even get her hair wet with 2 gallons of water. It seems like, but I have to travel down with my truck, with tanks in the back to the lodge, which is 25 minutes to the east of me. It's only 10 miles, but it's a dirt road. That's a dirt road.
Yep.
And I have to load up 500 gallons at a time and bring it back to my place and then pump it into my tank. And then my tank goes into my bladder tank and my pressure pump to pressurize my systems. But because of those issues alone, like the water conservation, well, we just had a well drilled. If I was in the city, the well would have been drilled and would have been finished and all this other stuff in a matter of 2 days and hand them the check and here you go, whatever. The people out here, the Mexican mañana, tomorrow, the siestas, the lack of follow through, the lack of communication. They drilled my well 3.5 weeks ago and it's still not done. I still haven't had a water test. I mean, it is what it is. But that's just one of the many challenges out here, getting anything done.
Right.
And
And
I
that's
guess,
kind of what I wanted to get to as well is like, so this is a fascinating area, and I'm going to step back because this is kind of a land investing
right,
podcast or real estate
right,
investing podcast, and I've told a lot of people I've bought and sold a lot of land in this area, and they don't understand it at all. Like they're out, unless you're
right.
familiar with this area or you're of a certain mindset or a certain person, people don't think.
And they have no clue what they're getting themselves into.
Right. So yeah, there's two things. There's people that are interested in buying it and don't really know what's going to go into it once they get the property. Or two, there's people who look at it and say there's absolutely no value to any of this property.
Right.
And it's a really fascinating area because of that dichotomy. And then there's someone like you who's like, yeah, this is my bread and butter. I
Yep.
not only understand the area, I understand the culture. I love it. I'm continuing to invest in it and develop it. And for a lot of people in this country, you might as well be on the moon, right? Like
Exactly.
this is out there. So
Well, when you
every,
drive on some of these back roads, you think you're on the moon.
oh
And
yeah,
I could take you to a few spots out here that literally not a plant in sight because it's all volcanic. And some of the exposed dirt out here is 300, 500,000 years old because we don't have plants that make dirt and it's too hot for earthworms to live. And,
yep.
it is a weird environment.
Yes,
So,
but it's an environment that if you're like a kind of an old school Texan, a lot
mhm.
of the older Texans know about it. They're like, oh, when I was a kid, I went to Big Bend National Park, and they have this
Yep.
sort of romantic vision of, folks with, dust on their boots and riding trails and horseback. And, I mean, I think that's the only mountain in Texas, right? I think there's only one mountain in Texas. I think
There's a whole lot of mountains down here,
is
but
it?
it's and this mountain range. Yeah, the Alpine and Fort Davis and Marfa. Some people know Marfa because
Yep.
of
Marfa Lights.
Austin and California has made it really popular as far
Hmm.
as Marfa. We don't claim it as part of Texas. We claim it as part of California. That's like imported itself here. So the true Texas, they're good people. They are. It's just not my vibe and not a Cowboys vibe type thing. But that's the Davis Mountains, and that's where
Okay.
the McDonald Observatory is up there. It's one of the best mountaintop observatories in the United States. A reason for that is because we are the darkest county in all of North America. We have the least amount of light pollution in all of North America, including Central America, Mexico, Canada, and everything. So we have the least amount of light pollution to see the stars, which is pretty darn cool. And we don't have the trees to block everything, so you get horizon to horizon and whatnot. And then in Big Bend National Park, it's the only mountain range, that's the Chisos Mountains, and that's fully contained inside the national park. And it has just over 8,000 foot peaks on a lot of those mountains. But you go from that down to 2,300 foot elevation, which is at the Rio Grande. So there's a big topographical layering in all of that. So you get to see all the way from the mountaintops to real deciduous trees and stuff that you don't think would be down here. And you have mountain lions and you have all those animals up there in the mountains. And then as you descend, then you get away from that stuff and you get into more of the cactuses and everything and the coyotes and the javelinas that's here. And then you get down even farther and you get into where it's just nothing but the scorpions and the little scrub cactuses, and everything down here has thorns and fangs and wants to poke you and kill you. And
Everything's trying to kill you. Yeah,
it's
that's right.
different. It's a weird place, but man, I would not be any place else on the planet right now. I really wouldn't.
Yeah, I
It's just
went
really
down
cool.
there. I went down there one time. I had bought this 320-acre property down there, and I had it on market, and it went under contract and went out of contract 3 or 4 times. And finally, I had a partner, and he said, "You need to go get some better drone footage of that property." So I said, "All
Yeah.
right, I could use a trip." And I drove down there, and it just occurred to me how rare it probably was, but it was raining hard when I was down
Yep.
there. And I was so frustrated because I wanted to see the night sky. That's what everybody talks about is you got to see the night sky. But it was all cloudy while I was there and
Yep.
raining. But it was cool because there was a lightning storm, and it was like, um, what do
So
they
the lightning
call?
storms, I finish your
Yes,
story, but then I have a short story about the lightning storms.
yes. Well, I was going to ask you, what do they call? They're like, and I actually I don't know what causes them, but there's all those like tiny hills when you're
Right.
kind of rolling into Alpine. Is there a name for those? What are those called?
Well, a lot of that is all of this used to be these shallow seas back
Hmm.
at the end of the dinosaur era. All of Central America used to have a shallow sea that ran all the way up to Canada, almost to the eastern side of Washington state. And as that drained, all that water ran in and out. And these were like the little islands as it was
I see.
washing in and out because it was bigger plateaus. But with this being mainly volcanic, a lot of that was the tuff and the sandstones and stuff that usually
Right.
surrounds volcanic activity from it heaving. So all of that stuff washed away and left more of the lava rock or the pyroclastic flows, which is harder than a sandstone or just sand sediments, and all of that washed away, which created the topography down here. And if you go to like Fort Davis, they didn't have the mountain volcanoes. They had where the ground cracked open for miles and the lava just came and poured up and came over like fingers. So the lava and the mountains up there looks like columns because it's eroded from the rains and stuff, and it looks like columns. because it's all lava flow. And then down here where I'm at, in this county south, because that's the next county north at Fort Davis. Down here we had the actual mountain volcanoes with eruptions, and heck, you could be digging somewhere. I was digging up in Alpine to put in a septic, and all of a sudden my bucket just went through like I hit a hole. But I didn't hit a hole. I hit tuff, which is ash, and it was white ash. And I pulled the bucket up, and it self-leveled right to the top of the bucket because it can't cling to itself or anything, and it didn't heap in the bucket. I'm like, what the heck? And it looked like white baby powder. And I poured it out, and I got out and put my hand in it, and it was really slick. And I spit in it, and it did clump up like a clay. And I'm like, what the heck is this? So I looked it up, and it's just pure white ash that's been sitting there for millions of years, and I dug into it. Well, you can't put a septic tank on that stuff.
Yeah.
It can't hold nothing. And I dug a little more, hoping to find the bottom, and I dug through 6.5 feet of it, and it never found the bottom. So I had to relocate it. But the interesting thing is, I had a mound of this stuff that was like 5 feet tall,
Hmm.
and I could take my hand and stick it all the way up to. You walk up to a pile of dirt and you stick your hand in maybe an inch.
Right.
My hand went right in and pull it right out. I'm like, this is weird, like being on a different planet.
That's
So
really
there's
cool.
so many stories.
Well, you
But
were
you
going to say
mentioned,
something about the lightning storms, right?
yeah, one of the culture shocks of moving to this area was the weather. When you said that it was raining really bad, we once in a while get a system rain comes through, and if we do, it does soak the area. Usually we get what's called a rain bomb, and that's from the natural moisture in the air when the tropical moistures start coming through in our tropical season, which most of our rain comes June and July. And it'll be totally blue skies, and all of a sudden this black cloud will form, and it will drop a column of rain, and it can drop 3 to 4 inches of rain in 20 minutes in that area. But you drive 2 miles away, and there's nothing, and it's blue skies up above it. And then that black cloud would disappear, go away, and then you look, and off in the distance, here's another black cloud raising, and it's doing the same thing. So we're going to get these spots of 3 inches of rain, but next to it, absolutely nothing. That's our typical rains out here. Once in a while, instead of 3 inches of rain, you'll get anywhere from, pea-sized hail all the way up to 3.5 inch hail. And most of the areas out here, it's about a 7 year cycle that somewhere out here you're getting hit with 3.5 inch hail.
Golly.
And, I mean, that's mortar shells.
Yeah.
But the coolest thing is when that's happening late in the evening and the sun goes down, I can see the thunderheads over in El Paso, Chihuahua, Mexico, Del Rio, all the way up to Midland, Odessa. So you just grab a 6 pack of beer, sit on your porch, and you watch the fireworks.
That's right.
And then straight above, clear skies, and you get the Milky Way galaxy and showing through real pretty, and all the stars and the shooting stars. And I mean, it's so unique. It's incredible out here.
Yeah, I think it's easy to fall in love with. I wish I had more time to stay there, but I'm going to come visit. I promise. But I'm curious. Obviously there's, someone like you who's investing and building an Airbnb, but I mean, there's a lot of different types that are kind of attracted to this area. I mean, you got
Yes, sir.
hippies, you got people who are just don't have money that are trying to squat out there. What are sort of the characters that you run into when you're out there?
Uh, the the locals call the people that live here the Terlingua Desert Rats.
I've never heard
Okay,
that.
that is the name that's given to the people that actually live here. Um, a rat may not have the best history in their past, you know, and they're very good at hiding.
Mm,
Okay. There's a lot of people out here that are hiding from something. Don't ask, don't tell. And they're the nicest people, and they'll support you. They'll give you the shirt off the back. Just don't ask them too many details about why they're here. Okay.
right.
Texas is a free carry state, and everyone out here, because of proximity to the border, is part of it. But pretty much any household out here has more than a couple guns. You don't just roll up on someone's property and drive up to their front door. You stop at the end of the driveway and you beep your horn. They'll come out and they say, "Hey, can I come up?" And they'll either wave at you to come in, or they'll hold up an AK-47 or a pistol and to drive off. That's the doorbells to the properties. The vast majority, 99 out of 100 people out here, some of the best people that you'll ever come across. It is the epitome of small town community mentalities. But there's a lot of people out here that's just trying to survive. And the properties out here were really cheap until all this interest with Big Bend National Park and the whole B&B explosion and everything else. The investors that don't live here, they've come in with their money that just isn't in this county. Okay. Average person in this county probably makes $18,000 to $23,000 a year. It's gone up a little bit, but it's not much.
Yeah.
But when 5 acres of land out here used to cost you $800, and you can put up a little shed that you can buy at Home Depot for $3,000, throw a bed in it, and you can live because it's dry. It's not cold in the winter and all that other stuff. So you can live very inexpensively. So it really was part of the equation of the people that are out here. But then you get people from the big cities in California that come out here and, this house is only, $80,000 and it's sitting on 20 acres and stuff. This is 7 years ago. What a bargain. I'll buy it. I'll turn it into a B&B and I'll rent it out. And they're making $30,000, $40,000 a year just renting it out a couple times a month.
Mm-hmm.
So that spread like wildfire, and every house in South County, pretty much, that people used to have, they think that their house is worth, let's say, $100,000. Someone would come and offer them $150,000 for it. Sold.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, now the average house out here is $180,000. Okay. And everything's been bought up and turned into B&Bs. There's almost no housing at all for the people that live here unless you build it yourself. So most people were moved into RVs, which is fine. We spend most of our time outdoors anyways. You could live in an RV. Well, then Aramark came in and bought like the lodge down in the national park, and the gas station down in Studi Butte, and the couple campgrounds and stuff. And instead of having long-term housing for people that are trying to live here in their RVs, they said, you got to get out, and we're only going to do short-term rentals for the, tourists. Well, that creates a problem. Now we don't have any place for anyone to live. Okay. So a lot of the workforce has been forced out in South County. And to drive all the way 70 miles from Alpine to come down here and clean a B&B for someone that lives in Houston, Austin, or wherever, to make $30 or $40 to clean it, you're spending $15 in gas just to drive down here. Then you still have to drive home.
Yeah, and you're wearing your car out.
Right.
Yeah.
So all these people that have all these B&Bs, they're like, they don't factor in, there's no workforce. And infrastructure includes the people. Okay. We have a long-term goal of building some long-term housing. We're going to build probably 6 duplexes for low income. You're going to have to prove that you live here, that you're part of the community, that you're part of the workforce, that you have a job. I'm not going to do government housing with government money because those people want to sit and just collect a check. I want people that's going to go out there and contribute to the community like I am, and those people, they'll have, I'll put in a well, I'll put it all on solar, I'll have it all, and I'll have Starlink. Starlink is the best internet out here. Elon Musk is a genius. but it'll be totally self-contained, and it'll only cost them like $700 to $800 a month, and everything's included. Okay, in a stick-built place that's not a rundown shack, and that will give us enough in my immediate community, enough housing for the workers, for the road crews out here, because the ranch we have to maintain our own roads. It's all private owned. It's not county roads or anything. So on the ranch we have our own graders and dump trucks and all that stuff, but nobody to drive them because there's no housing.
Yep.
The ranch has a big RV port that if you have an RV, you can go there and stay there for $1 a month. They have to charge something, so they charge $1 a month.
Wow.
That gives you your water and your electricity, as long as you're working. But the average person that comes out here with these big ideas, oh, I could buy this cheap and I can live out there cheap and stuff. The average person that moves here lives here for a year and a half, and that's it. And 9 out of 10 leave because they can't handle the heat in the summer, 115, 120 degrees at times. But it is dry, but so is an oven,
Yeah.
Everyone says, hey, it's a dry heat. Yeah, you have to have shade structures or you're going to get totally fried from the sun. In the summer, we go down to the lodge. They have this really beautiful big swimming pool that has salt water, because our water here is naturally salty. It's got the dissolved salts in it, so they don't use chlorine. They were spending $10,000 a year for chlorine in their pool, and when they switch it over to a salt base, they spend $800.
Yeah.
Good decision. Then it doesn't burn your eyes, but it's right at the base of a little mountain and everything, and go down there when it starts getting warm. And I don't mind the siesta times in the summer.
That's right. Right.
But those are some of the challenges, man.
Yeah.
It's just a lot of them.
Well, I think I could probably talk to you for a really long time, because I bet you have a ton of stories, and I was kind of like noodling around here at some interesting facts about that Brewster County, and there's a lot of them, from Marfa Lights to everything, ghost towns.
And we've seen all those, and the unexplained phenomena.
Yeah.
The orbs that, let's just say it's not a plasma discharge or anything like that. It has some sentience to it. I have seen rocket launches, and some of these light orbs defy physics at their speed. We've seen light orbs disappear right in front of our eyes. We've seen them take off and head straight out into space. No sonic boom, no nothing. And I mean, it's faster than anything I've ever seen. I'm talking thousands of times faster than a rocket launch. Okay. It's incredible. In the blink of an eye, you just watch it go straight, gone. And it's not just me. A lot of people, my entire family has seen it and everything. There's so many stories, man. It's such a cool thing to.
That's crazy. You need to start a blog or something like that, or a YouTube channel where you cover
My
everything.
wife has been telling me that for ever since probably after the first year we moved here.
Yeah.
And I've never known anything about it. I've always had other stuff to do, and this is my first podcast ever. And she asked me if I was nervous, and I'm like, no, I talk all the time anyways. Big deal, It's horrible being an introverted person.
Our first phone call was like 30 minutes.
Total strangers. Couldn't get off the phone.
Well, Marty, I really appreciate you. I'm going to have to let you go so I can move on to some more work. Not everybody gets to sit around all day like you and your.
Well, no, I'm setting trusses and decking a roof today. So.
Oh, okay. So you just had a relaxed morning. Okay.
Yeah.
But before we go, you have Airbnbs and ways people can reach out to you and check out what you do. So can you share some of that, and also put it in the show notes?
My wife gave me a list so that I wouldn't mess it up.
Yep.
She is my balance. She is my barometer. So if all you have to do is really look up White Bear Ranch in Brewster County or Alpine, Texas, and it'll go to us. You'll see us on Airbnb and Facebook. Instagram is uses underscore, so white_bear_ranch. TikTok is at white.bear.ranch. Email is whitebearranch@yahoo.com. Right now, our website, we haven't paid yet to buy the .com. So right now it's a Wix, but if you just Google it, you'll find us and you'll see the progress. And I have some drawings of the pavilion that's going to be upcoming and all that stuff. And if you want to see something that I did do, it was Cottonwood Creek Cabins, Alpine, Texas. We had a really cool teepee and 6 cabins, and the guy that bought it is doing really well, making a heck of a lot of money. So it's a really cool place to venture. And the only thing I'm gonna say about White Bear Ranch is
Uh-huh.
it's being set up for adults only. If you bring kids, make sure that they're at least teenagers or whatever, because
Hmm.
we do have the full bar and nobody gets drunk. Nobody does, it's not a belligerent, but it's an adult atmosphere for couples. We're trying to do like a full retreat thing. And everything out here is going to be very memorable for anyone that comes. Hope people
Awesome.
do.
Beautiful. Well, Marty, thank you so much for
Appreciate
your
you, buddy.
time. Yeah, and I'm probably gonna have you back on when your project's done. We can talk more about it.
Yes, sir. I'll be glad to have some photos and some links that can be shared with people. But there's plenty out there already. My wife's really good at making sure that it's updated.
Beautiful.
So
Well, folks, just a reminder, if you need to buy or sell land, go to primelandexchange.com. Check us out. If you need funding, go to landpartnerfunding.com, and we will see you on the next one. Cheers.
thank you.